25 is a new free plugin by Native Instruments, and it is limited edition. It's available until December 31st. In this video I'll show you how to use it, what it sounds like, and a tutorial on how to install it is at the end of this video. My name is Matt Flank, let's get started. So to run this plugin you will need to open Kontakt, and then in Kontakt you will see 25. Click the instruments and drag this to the big panel on the right. On this screen you see the two oscillators, oscillator A and oscillator B. You can turn them on and off by clicking on the oscillator itself. To select a different waveform, you can click on the title of the waveform. Here you can see that each oscillator has 114 waveforms to choose from, divided in 4 pages. And clicking on a waveform shows its sound source. So if I select 1991, you can see it's a waveform from Massive Factory. And if you hover your mouse over anything, you will see what it is doing. So for example, we can browse the sound sources for layer A if we click right here. Now let's take a look at the different sections. We have the settings, macros, sequencer, effects and sound. Let's take a look at the settings first. On here we can change the mono legato, change the oscillator waveform, set the key range, glide and change the band range. We can also change the velocity curve of the entire synthesizer. We can do the same things for oscillator B. Next up, let's take a look at the sound. In here we have the oscillator settings. We can adjust the waveform, transpose it, tune it, pan it and change the volume. And we can also add some effects which include bit reduction, bit crushing, noise and coloring. Then there is also a filter with cutoff, resonance, the filter gain which is only available for ladder and daft filters, and then the key tracking. There is also 2 LFOs to choose from. We can change the waveform by dragging up and down on the waveform icon. And then we can change the rate and the fade in. Lastly, there is a mod envelope and amplitude envelope. And we can enable or disable the different modulation effects. All this can also be done for oscillator B, and we can link them together by clicking on the chain icon. Next up, let's take a look at the macros. The macros are the knobs that you can see right here at the bottom. These knobs can be remapped to anything. Balance and volume are always there. Balance adjusts the balance between oscillator A and oscillator B, and volume adjusts the master volume of the plugin. Right here we can see that we can change the order of these knobs. Each macro can be mapped to 12 unique destinations. By default, the macros are mapped to cutoff, resonance, saturation, floating, delay and reverb. And for these macros you can adjust the minimum and maximum range and change the curve. Assigning new macros is very easy, but you need to know where to look. So to do that, you can see these little dots right here next to the macro buttons. Simply click a dot and you will see it starts blinking. Now it is in learn mode and you can assign it to a new macro. So let's add this to the crush. You can see the macro is now being assigned and we can select a range. Now let's also map it to the crush of oscillator A. And if you go back to the macros, you can see I also have the cutoff macro mapped to the oscillator B and oscillator A crush. To rename a macro, you will simply need to click on the text below the knob. And if you want to remove all the mappings to a macro at the same time, you can control-click on the colored button. And finally, you can click this menu to open even more macro settings. Now let's take a look at the sequencer. So to turn the sequencer on and off, just like the effects, you can click this on and off button. If it's white, it's on. If it's grayed out, it's not on. So this is a 16-step sequencer, and we can sequence the velocity and pitch and all the macros. You can adjust the rate, the swing, change the first step, change the root key, the scale and make it global locked. You can draw in new sequencer values simply by clicking and dragging your mouse. And to reset the values, hold Ctrl or Command on your keyboard and drag your mouse across the sequencer steps. Now let's take a look at some effects. So on here you can see that we have an EQ for each oscillator, and behind that is a serial chain of up to 6 effects. You can see some effects are loaded by default. To change an effect, simply click on the drop-down menu. These are all the effects you can choose from. Pause the video to read it for yourself. You can also change the order of the effects by dragging them around just like this. And you can turn on and off individual effects by clicking its dedicated on-off button. Each effect has its individual set of controls. I won't go over that in this video. You can just experiment with that for yourself. And finally, by clicking the menu icon in the top left, you can save your own effects presets. Now that you know what the plugin does and how to use it, let's listen to some presets. So to install 25, you need to go to this website, a link will be in the description. And you need to download Native Access and complete start. So simply click the free download button. And if you have an account, you can log in and just click get 25. If you don't have an account yet, just follow the steps right here. So if I click get 25, it will ask me to log in. So let's log in real quickly. So now that you're logged in, you'll see this button and you can click get 25 and it will add it to your account. I have already done this, so I'm not gonna do it again. Instead, you want to open Native Access, which is opening right now. So if Native Access is opened, you will need to find 25. For you will have to look in the Not Installed tab and you will see it somewhere right here. Or if you can't find it, you can also search for it. But since I already have it installed, it's gonna be in Installed Products for me. If it's installed, you can simply open your DAW, load Kontakt, and then load 25 as shown in the beginning of this video.